think if we are all in. Well, good evening to everyone. I think we're supposed to be on already. So good afternoon, good evening, and welcome. I want to first of all thanks so much to all the public that is following this discussion online, and especially we basically today celebrate, but as well walk a bit through the challenges that they do have the woman into the sciences. And that's why we have these very amazing and diverse speakers coming from very different places, very different countries, backgrounds. So we can walk through all their journeys and especially their achievements, because it's a day of celebration today, the Day of the Woman and Science. So we have today Dr. Temitope Fadipe. She's a medical doctor. We have Isabelle Munyangaju from Mozambique, a medical doctor as well. Dr. Elisa Lopez-Varela, who is a pediatrist. Khayakazi Matangana, architectural technologist. And Fabiola Quesada, who is a veterinarian and conservationist. So I would like this to be a very open discussion, but we will start for Dr. Temitope Fadipe. As I was saying, you are a medical doctor, you are specialized on molecular genetics, and you are the head of the molecular biology laboratory at the Federal Institute of Industrial Research, OSHIDI, in Lagos, in Nigeria. But you are in Madrid right now because you are as well a visiting professor at in el Centro Nacional de Biotecnología. And so I would like to start with you. So if you can share with us, like what brought you to science and which are the projects or the achievements you are more proud of, if you can share with us.
Good evening, everyone. So I'm a introduction, Gemma, but I'm not a medical doctor. I'm a scientist. So though I specialize in the field of molecular genetics. As you said, I work as a researcher in the Federal Institute of Industrial Research, OSHIDI, Lagos, Nigeria. And I'm currently a visiting professor at the Spanish National Center for Biotechnology. So a little bit about the research I do here. I've been involved in the environmental aspect of seeking for alternatives to synthetic polymers and plastics. So basically, I'm using bacteria to produce biodegradable polymers for bioplastics production. So specifically to the work here in Spain, I'm trying to overexpress some specific genes, target genes, that will help for me for my bacteria to over-accumulate more of the plastics. We can have more for industrial processes. So you asked about what motivated me to be a scientist. Well, the motivation started when I was in secondary school, specifically to the biological sciences. I was usually fascinated by some topics in biology when it had to do with the cell, metabolism, genetics. I found it very, very interesting. And then I chose to actually specialize in the biological sciences when I was going into the university. And then ultimately I found myself in the Department of Cell Biology and Genetics. It was like, that was just what I wanted to do. That was my interest. And then to take it further, in my third year, I discovered that I could actually make something. We got experiments. So I started understanding that, okay, there are actually a lot of problems around us which requires a scientific approach to solve problems. And I became very interested in being a scientist as a career. So proceeded to do my master's and PhD postdocs, and here I am today as a scientist. So proud moment will be First, the day I graduated my master's with a distinction. I thought that I almost did not make that distinction. I set out to make a distinction in my master's. I thought I'd missed it, but it was extra special because I was able to meet that target. My PhD graduation was a very special moment for me as well. And then the day I hosted the first molecular biology workshop series in FIRO, because it's kind of like my way of giving back to the scientific community, the life science community in Nigeria. So that would.
And just for us to know, like on your journey and educational journey, especially, like who did you get inspiration from, and did you found other women in your path that help you think that being a woman and scientist is it possible, and that they helped you motivate you to keep on that journey?
Okay, so yes, there are women scientists, there are 2 women scientists specifically. And I would say that initially at the beginning of even venturing into a career in the sciences, it was the men. My academic advisor in school, Professor Shesomi Diji, the supervisor of my undergrad project, Professor Williams, Professor Odega, they were men. Professor Saliu now. So I spoke to them and they encouraged me. They let me know that if you're looking for money, you are probably not going to find it here, but you will find the fact that you'll be fulfilled, you will be solving problems, you'll be making important contributions to humanity. So along the line, of course, I get to meet a lot of women scientists. 2 of them have stood out. One is Professor Stella Smith. She was a mentor to me. She is still a mentor to me. When I decided to go into the field of molecular biology, I attended her trainings. She picked me up, she tutored me. And in fact, I would say it was because of that trainings that I was able to complete my PhD benchwork in 6 months in Germany and Poland, all of my thesis. The second person is Professor Gloria Elemo. She's the immediate past DG of my institute. And what actually makes me, fascinated and inspired by her is that she was a woman leading an institute. Of course, we had diversity of men and women. And she also had to, in the political setting in Nigeria, we have most men there. She had to talk to the politicians, the government people, and the way she comported herself with grace, it was quite interesting. And then on the side of the science, she encouraged me to start a molecular biology laboratory. In fact, that was why she employed me. She made sure she went all out of her way to provide the resources. She got the funding, and we started the molecular biology laboratory in FIRO. And then one last thing about Professor Elemo is that when she came into FIRO, she met less than 10 PhD students, PhD graduates in a federal research institute in Nigeria. By the time she was leaving after 8 years, she left over 50. And she left in 2019. A big chunk of them are women. And then right now, some of the people that even started during her tenure, about 10 or thereabouts, have even gone on to complete their PhD. More people are still out there. So she's a dynamic woman, and those are 2 people I look up to and I feel inspired by their journey.
Yeah, so you really got like 2 very strong figures to look up to. So from Nigeria, let's move to Mozambique. I mean, not only Mozambique, because it's Rwanda, South Africa. Isabelle Munyangaju, welcome. You have a very special journey, a very special path. You are, now I'm scared to say medical doctor, because as we were having the discussion, you're a medical doctor. I still believe you work a lot on the field of the infectious disease, especially tuberculosis and HIV. But I think, so explain us exactly what you're doing, which are your projects, but especially what science means to you.
Good evening, everybody, and good morning, as I see some people from the United States. So yeah, I'm Isabel, and I am a medical doctor, even though I don't like being called one. And I'm working in tuberculosis, HIV. And right now I'm doing a PhD through La Caixa Foundation. I got a fellowship through La Caixa Foundation and IS Global Barcelona, as well as the University of Barcelona. and it's to study medical radiation and tuberculosis. So it's to look at the radiation exposure that children who undergo diagnosis and follow-up of TB get when they do have X-rays done and CT scans. And then also to look at novel imaging diagnostics to diagnose TB in children, so mostly pediatric TB. And in terms of what science means to me, science really means a lot to me. As you said, I come from Rwanda originally, so I'm Rwandese, Mozambican now. And I was a refugee in Mozambique for quite a few years. I've become recently nationalized. And to me, science has been like, it's brought back or given me back the privilege of belonging, of having a community, because through science, I was able to like travel the world and to really contribute to the world. So just to give you a context, when I finished school, I couldn't, as Mozambique was coming out of war and it was also developing, they only had one medical school in the country. And so they needed to make necessary restrictions for, in order to meet demand. And as a refugee, I could not enter that medical school, but I was able to enter in a medical school in South Africa. And entering into medical school and really beginning to study science, I realized that I was not judged based on my social belongings, based on my social condition, but I was judged based on my skills. And science is that you're really taken as a contributor and not really what you are socially. So in science, there's contribution, there's no nationalities, there's no borders, and really it's a community that really wants to do good for the world, to change the world and to make it a better place. And for me, it's been really like salvation. It's an escape here.
It's an escape. And how did you do to, fight and go all over all these obstacles?
Yeah, so as I said, science is about the skills that you have. It's about your brain and how well you can use it and the contribution you have to bring to, or you can bring to the table, to the world. And that really pushes out anything else that can influence the choices. For example, I'm here with La Caixa Foundation, and when we applied for the grant, we were evaluated on our skills, on our CV, and it wasn't on where you come from or who you are. So I find science offers that and really gives, it's a way of, anyone from any background can do science, and you can excel if you really applied and you are perseverant, regardless of what nationality you've got or you don't have. Yeah.
So let's bring inside Dr. Elisa Lopez-Varela. You are a pediatrist, you work at IS Global, and you led as well several field research on HIV and TB and COVID, among all of the things. I mean, I shortcut the CVs because they are like amazing. But if you can as well, I would like, we are hearing stories of like success and how it is possible to go through this amazing tool that is science, but as well, there is still so many challenges on the table. So Elisa, are you here?
Yes, can you hear me? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, now I can see you.
Thanks, Gemma. So thanks first of all for the opportunity to share this time with this amazing and inspiring woman. And I think, as you're saying, we're seeing the success because we hear stories from a lot of people. And I think the message overall in a day like today should be positive. And I think it is. But we need to look at what needs to be changed, right, to move forward. So I would say for me, science is definitely a passion. It's a combination between what I think I'm good at, what my passion is, and also what I think is important for the world. But but I think there's a lot that we still need to fight for to break some barriers, especially for women in science. And I think we will hear inspiring stories from everyone that are examples of those ways we fight those barriers. But I think this, as researchers, if we look at numbers, which is what we like to do, there's a very compelling evidence that the gender gap between, so the gender equity in research is very far from being achieved. I think there's data from the World Economic Forum saying we're about 100 years away from really reaching equity in gender. And I think it's the same in science, probably more, even worse than in other fields, definitely for science and technology. And it has to do with a lot of things. It has to do with individual barriers. It has to do with society, with cultural norms. So just to point some of them, I think one very obvious one is the role that women have in with families, taking care either of kids or someone else in the family. That is definitely a barrier towards career development, unless I think we live in societies that put in place structures that protect those kind of caregivers. And I think we've all probably seen this. We might have been more or less successful in breaking those barriers, but they're there. And I think it's kind of a ceiling, glass ceiling, where we need to break to get these opportunities. And there's another thing I would point out, Gemma, maybe the last one, and give opportunity for others, is bias, right? We're all full of our own kind of stigma and bias when we analyze things. And again, if we go to data numbers, men are twice as much invited to international conferences as women. When we look at grants, there's a huge difference in the amount and the number of grants awarded by men and women. And there's some interesting investigations that actually have looked at that, over 20,000 research projects in Canada. And then they try to assess the same thing without the numbers, so really focusing on the science and not on who's presenting that. And what it proved, this investigation, was that there was indeed a gender bias, where these grants were not given in the same proportion based on science, but based on gender. So I think two examples just to think about our own stigma and how we as scientists, as mentors, as supervisors can try to break those barriers.
And why do you think is still happening that the men are still more invited, more quoted, more taken seriously, let's put it like this?
I think it's multifactorial and very complex. Say and I think there's amazing work on studying this. There's an association, Women in Global Health, that do a lot of social anthropological research around why these barriers are created, and a lot of feminist movement. But I would say two of them would be the bias we all have inherited. And it comes back, I think, to education. If we look at textbooks, and there's been an interesting exercise called No More Matildas. So trying to look at the textbook, and only less than 10% of the scientific figures that are being taught at school are female. And the females are there, right? It's just that probably we're not promoting them to that level. And that probably inevitably makes a young girl or a young boy from very young ages say, well, these are the figures, these are my references, this is the field I should go into. So I think it starts very early in how we teach, in how we, break barriers and teach people that they can do science, that you don't need to be, Einstein and a crazy researcher to do research. You can be, a beautiful woman. You can be someone who has a family or doesn't have there's so many models, right? But we need to show them and make them visible. And we need to, I think, question ourselves all the time, either being a male or a female. We all have bias. So unless we, analyze those biases day by day and put on like the feminist glasses and think how we approach these things as a group individually, I think that's a starting point.
Well, that's why we are here today, like discussing this and questioning ourselves. So good evening, Khayakazi Matangana. You are architectural technologist. You are in Durban in South Africa, and you lecture as well at the university. So, and you work in a world that is very as well male dominated, which is construction, as well as your educational space. So which obstacles or which challenges did you face as a woman in in the field you work in, and how did you fight against them?
Good afternoon, everyone. It's quite an interesting question that you asked me because I initially thought that I wanted to start the conversation by saying that I'm in this panel. The reason that I'm in this panel is because of my grandmother, because I grew up from a rural village, in South Africa. And back home, we worked the land. And she discovered that I was the one of the lazy people, within the homestead. I used to go hide and pretend to be studying. And then at some point she was like, okay, I know that you are a lazy bone. So you are going now to be confined in your books and you have to make it work so that you make money and get people to work the land for you. So this is one of the reasons why I'm here. And just to take it further, I wanted to say that for me and for other African students who come from the villages, our plight starts way before we are even in the professional field or in the higher education, because you're already starting on the back foot. You're coming from a village and you don't have all the resources that are required, especially for someone who just went and studied architecture, which is a program that requires a lot of resources and a lot of technology, computers and things like that, that you need to have before you even start. So I've faced quite a lot of challenges, which don't necessarily also have to do with me being a woman in the construction or in the built environment, but just generally being an African woman in the construction industry. Because there are, for example, just to give you an idea of what we have to battle with, when we are in South Africa trying to study architecture, which is also known as a very elitist tool. It's a very elite, if you look back into history of architecture, they were the patrons of the city. They would do all these beautiful and amazing buildings in your Florence and Venice. And someone like me just comes in there now and you're being taught this history and you have to emulate and, that kind of life. But the odds are against you also because you are in Africa. And now you have people who are within the architectural profession as well, and you find that you are a minority, and because it's still very colonial, very male, very white, and it's very tough. I wouldn't say that it's there are a lot of, it's multifaceted, the struggles and challenges that you have to face as a woman in the construction industry, I must say.
And actually, how do you navigate it, like professionally and personally? Because, on the academia especially, but even in the professional world, you have to follow certain steps to success. But if you are already on a minority, like being not white, being not male, and on top of that, you are critical, you are questioning, you are putting, so like, how do you navigate all these issues, let's say, not issues, all these challenges?
Okay, so it's not so much about also just navigating the challenges within the profession, because it's also in the academic sphere as well. You get there, they also have their own politics of how things should be done. For example, I would say that when I first started in academia, which was almost 3 to 4 years ago, first of all, I had been working as a technologist for over 10 years. And because academia, you all want these certificates, to prove your competence. So which is why now I'm studying and trying to be more educated, So you get there and you're already teaching students who don't even identify of language of architecture that you're trying to show them what it is. So the struggle also starts from there, where, for example, you have to take the first year student and ask them, what is architecture and what is your most favorite building? And I kid you not a single one of them would draw a homestead where they come from. Everyone draws a Burj Dubai, the Eiffel Tower. And I mean, you've never even seen this sort of architecture, but already it's something that you aspire to, And I think that's why also then I was like very interested into trying to bring some kind of transformation and decolonization within the architectural education, so that students can also identify with the type of architecture that they're practicing within the African context. So it's not just, it's a lot of challenges, but hopefully, the conversations have now started on how we can break these barriers, and the feminist movements, and women being represented. I think it's a good start, and we are, I would say.
And did you find some woman on your way that you say she's inspiring me to just keep on, like on the professional world, a woman close to you, or even someone that you can look up to?
Personally, professionally, I wouldn't say that there are a lot of women that I've looked up to, because remember, like I said, for me, architecture was very accidental. And it's something that I encountered when I was in university, because I saw a friend of mine drawing in first year. I was like, so you can make money with just drawings, So that's how my path through architecture started. And lo and behold, it's like this amazing pit full of sciences and, and technologies and all these other things. So I did not, unfortunately, have, the access or to see the women around me, because it was mostly dominated. But now, in my mature-ish age, I'm starting to see a lot of young women coming up with these Black African female architects movements. And also I'm inspired by the women in Barcelona who are doing, the feminist urbanism projects where cities need to be designed for women, to make them safe and to make them, to design them to cater to the needs of the women. So there's quite a lot. There's a lot of females that inspire me now, but they are almost my age or younger sometimes.
So from Durban, let's keep in South Africa. Let's go to another side of South Africa. There is Fabiola Quesada there. You are veterinarian conservationist. You founded and you lead the Wildlife Conservation Medicine Foundation. And it looks like you had to create your own tools because the space, it was not enough. Fabiola, explain us, what are you doing in South Africa? What is this foundation about, and what do you do?
Hi, Gemma. Well, thank you very much to you and to all the organization for having us today here. And congratulations to all the previous panelists. So, well, yes, I found that I always have the will and the dream to work with wildlife, but with the aim to protect wildlife on a bigger scale. And then when I was trained and when I finished my career, throughout the career, I found out that there was not the infrastructure to allow this field, to allow us to work on that field. Therefore, it needed to be created. And it's not only something that I found in Europe, it's something that I found in all the continents. So already it was difficult for males and extra difficult for females to get into the field. So therefore, finally, basically it was no one to employ, or basically just not the system where I could fit. So therefore, I created my training program, my wildlife medicine program here in South Africa, along with my male business partner. And we had been training veterinarians, students, professional veterinarians from throughout the world on what is required to be a wildlife vet and wildlife conservationist. And that allowed me to be, along about a decade here in South Africa and know well the continent, and therefore the needs, what need to be done to protect wildlife. Why are we facing the biggest extinction of wildlife ever in history? Why are constantly emerging infections? And what can be done to protect that, to prevent that? What can we do to to stop and protect nature, but from a professional level, So this is how it was, the foundation was created. And again, I tried to find the place where to fit, or the organizations that they will go, they will take this scope, and I could not find them. Therefore, I realized it's a gap, let's create it. On that path, currently we have projects throughout Africa, and it's very difficult, very tough, but at the same time, it's very inspiring. We work with women and men, but all levels. And the beauty of that, I think, is when I say at all levels, it's at community level, it's at professional level, and it's at policymakers level. And in all these levels, there are women that they are really willing to protect nature. And I think there is a little difference between men and women, maybe that in the part of genetically or whatever you want to call it, maybe we have more empathy with others, and we have more empathy, therefore, as well with other creatures and nature. So maybe we're a little bit more sensitive, and then we're using these professional skills to protect nature. And all the panelists here, they mention of let's make of this a better planet. So actually it's beautiful how we are using these professional tools in all different skills to make of this a better planet.
So we definitely, we do know that there is still so many challenges in the front of us. Like, what can we and what can you, women working on science, you think you can do to push and change the situation? Of course, there is a lot of new feminist movements, but there is some difficulties that we need, everyone to be on board. Where do you think that the solutions, they might start from the woman point of view? What can we do to try to move a bit the situation?
I think we are in a privileged situation. Our generation of women is in a privileged situation. We have the power to empower other women. We have the power to inspire other women, and we're in the position to be able to do it. When before us, they were very few, and already we are much more. So I think we really need to focus not only in our work, but on our, I will call it necessity, or I will call it exactly the right word to say, but it's something that we must do. And something for me extremely important is men, they might not help you. But when a woman doesn't help you, it's really like something shock you, So women that we are in a leadership position, we really need to take that as a responsibility of the work. We have the responsibility to empower other women. And so therefore, for them, that will be much quicker to escalate on the steps that it was for us, that took us much longer time and much more effort that maybe it could take them, because we are basically breaking doors and breaking walls for them. And then their path is already much softer.
So I would like to extend this question to all of you as well. So what can we do to change the situation? But as well, apparently we do have a new special guest, she will join us, is Esther Mckinde. If you are around, if you can hear us and you want to, I don't know.
Yes, I'm around.
Yeah, so if you can introduce yourself, because I've been asked that, I've been told that you are around, so okay. Please jump into the floor.
Okay, my name is Dr. Esther Oluwa Mckinde. I'm currently a senior lecturer in the University of Lagos. Very, very soon I'll become an associate professor. My background is in geography, environmental science with specialty in remote sensing and GIS. I was in Spain, I think 2 years ago or so, for a senior visiting fellowship position. I had my postdoc in the UK. I think one of the things I would like to mention is that I think we have more challenge with women in science in Africa than in Europe or in America. That's if I'm correct, but that's my thing. And that's because UK, that when I attended the faculty meeting, I observed almost 50-50, men 50%, women 50%. And I remembered where I came from, which is my department. When I got into the department where I am currently in the University of Lagos, that's where I lecture, I was just the third lady who was an academic staff there. And I was a bit surprised. And so I just realized that women in science in Africa are limited, and we need to wake up. But I think in recent times, there's that call going out, and people are coming in. So for now, I think that's just a brief. One of the things I do also is box science program in Nigeria when I came back from the UK, and that's to talk about science that women do, and it's basically for women from the PhD level and above. And I think that alone will, kind of showcase what women are doing in science. So I think that's just a brief summary of what I do.
Thank you so much, Esther. And so, yeah, let's pick up all this reflection on how, what is the role and how could we do women to move a bit all this situation. Maybe I think because Dr. Temitope mentioned about having two very strong, powerful women to look up to, how crucial is it to have, to see that women are doing well, like there's the young generation can see women that they're doing, that they're successing on science, that they are working, and they are new reference, no? So how crucial it is to have women, and how difficult, like how do we change this? What Elisa was mentioning, that they are not invited in conferences, like where to start to change all this plan?
Yes, that's very true. Women personally have to be motivated themselves. I think that's just the first thing, because I realized that the society we live in, you will not be offered some opportunities on a platter of gold. You might need to fight for it and be persistent in it. And just because you are a woman, it will more or less be as if you want to come and usurp the authority of men. So sometimes women find themselves fighting for things that ought not to be. And one of the things that I have realized is that sometimes you need to get men who support women. For example, I had my PhD in the Obafemi Awolowo University, OAU, in Ife, formerly called University of Ife. My supervisor, who also supervised my master's project, he, from day one, mentioned that he is not going to be gender biased. And so he told me that the same tax he will give to a man, he will give to a woman. And you can see that reflect in all that he does. Even his own wife, she's a professor. In fact, she's one of our advisors on the Sub platform for Nigeria. So you could see that he, on his own, had a mindset of pushing whoever is ready, whether you are a man or a woman, to move on. And so when we have men also who have that mindset, I think women should take advantage of it, because we have men also who will deliberately pull down women. So but if you have a man who is encouraging you, okay, this is a conference you can attend. I remember that when I finished my PhD, he said, okay, go online, go and Google for conferences. He was showing me part of the way to go. Until tomorrow, he's still my mentor, even though he was my MSc and PhD supervisor. That's because I could see he had my best interest at heart. So I think women also, when they find men, either their supervisors or their relations or whoever. For example, my dad also is somebody who keeps pushing, So I'm prepared to have a father and a mom who, we encourage you. In Africa where we come from, you have parents who will say at a particular age, when are you getting married and all that. But if you have parents who, yes, you can get married, be married, have your children, at the same time, pursue career. So in Africa, both your parents, both the spouse you also marry, and even the environment itself, influences the way a woman will respond. So if a woman in herself is not personally motivated, she will get discouraged. If she's personally motivated and they have the support system from others, she will strive. And one of the things I'm happy about is that currently I'm even the only woman left in my department. The other, a big boss in Oyo, and then the other one has gone to the UK. But the good thing in my department is that we have more ladies who are coming to take the course, and I can do it. Go online, search for this, you know. So sometimes when they see people like us who are trying to break through the barrier, and God is helping us, we're actually breaking through the barrier, you know, they can get inspired. One of the things also the women need to learn is not to give up. That you got a no today doesn't mean you get a no tomorrow. You can still try again, you know, and then you get a yes. So I think it's so important that the women themselves must be personally motivated, and also not having a rude spirit but that positive motivation, fighting spirit to get what you want that is due you. I think a woman should have it. And then if she's lucky enough to have parents or spouses or brothers or siblings around her, you know, who we encourage her, I think that would be good. So women need to encourage themselves, and then the society also. One of the things I want to say, just want to mention, is that the system in Nigeria, for example, that's where I am currently, even the government itself does not encourage women. For example, we have a ministerial list that was released some time ago. We had over 40 slots and only 7 were given to women. In my own university, we have about 7 slots for principal officers. We have just 2. But I'm happy that our current vice chancellor made a woman to be the first dean of arts. She was the first professor of history. In fact, she is the first professor of history in the University of Lagos. So we have, when we see men like that encouraging women, you know, I think women should take advantage of it. Then also women should encourage women. And that's what I try to do, having my soapbox program. This is the 4th year, and, you know, trying to push women to the forefront. And then what women are doing, let men see that women are capable if given the opportunity.
Exactly. This is like a teamwork. There is a lot of support needed in terms of policies, in terms of cooperation in between like women and men, of course, from the universities, from the professional world. And as well, we didn't mention yet the conciliation with the family life and the professional life. So I would like Elisa, if you can tell us, like, how is still these are challenges, because we didn't even mention it yet. how to conciliate the taking care of the kids and the family, and how far are we from getting equality on that in science?
I don't have the answer because I don't do it well. I think one week I'm good at work, the next week I'm a very bad mother, the next week I'm a very bad at work. It's so difficult. But I would say again, like going back to the factors, you know, that there needs to be policies in place. I think in academia, usually you're going through, you know, research scholarships for your postdoc and your PhD. I've experienced myself certain scholarships, for example, that didn't take into account maternity leave. And that's obviously a big example of how, you know, how that's a barrier, because if you have 2-year scholarship and you have a baby in the middle and it's not contemplated, then you need to finish the work 6 months earlier, or, you know, fulfill your assignments with that time. So I think the first thing is to have, you know, fair policies that protect maternity or caregiving of, you know, elderly people or whatever it is. And that's contemplated as a, you know, as a job for humanity, let's say, rather than as a, you know, you fighting against your own, you know, necessities. And I think that's been particularly severe probably in COVID for a lot of the families. And again, back to data, I think there's studies showing how COVID affected much more the productivity usually of women. Because usually when there was a couple, it was usually the women who stopped working or worked less and took more care of the kids, or the other family members, or took more care of the house. And that had an impact in grant writing, in papers, in advancing research. I don't have a solution. I think quantifying these things is a good start, at least, and reading these things and knowing that this happens. Even talking it today with you, actually, and sharing and, you know, and discussing these things.
I think we're overlooking something. We are a panel of women, and all of us are women who have reached a certain level. We've fought and we fought for what we wanted. So we are the solution. We are already the change that we want. I don't think we should be speaking so much about the troubles that we're having, we've already gone out. I think we need to stop a bit, saying men need to give us this and that, because if you think, if I have something and it's really benefiting me, I'm not going to give it up easily unless someone comes and fights for it and fights it off me and takes it away. So that is the mindset that we need to have as women, we need to go out and fight. I mean, there is a system in place that benefits a certain group, and they're not going to give it up because we're crying about it. No, we have to go out and fight for it. And I think today we've got 6, 7 fighters, and we've come to share our fighting spirit and all the tips that we've got. I mean, Dr. Temitope is number 1. I mean, all of us have fought and have gone out and really, we followed it all the way, and we're fighting, we're making the sacrifices that we need to make, but we'll get there. And I hope that we will open the doors for others. And I want to open the doors for like everybody to come in, to offer more opportunities for girls like me. And I think also Kaya has started. Kaya, don't worry. Like in the future, I think even our housesteads will be like top notch because of you. They'll bear the name of Kaya. So I think we need to really appreciate and celebrate what we've achieved now, and we need to recognize that we are the change, and there's no other solution. We are the solution. Thank you.
To follow up on what Isabelle said, so yes, we have a lot of challenges, but there are some people that are doing quite a lot of things. The foundation that has sponsored my trip here in Spain, the Foundation for Women in Africa, the president, I think, Maria Teresa de la Vega, yes. She saw that there was a gap. That was a woman in Spain. She saw that there was a gap in Africa. Then she's the president of the foundation. She set up the foundation. And this particular program, which I am part of the 6th beneficiary, is going on. The foundation is going to be 10 years this year. So I want to also challenge us. People outside are seeing these gaps and they're trying to fill it. They are coming up with solutions for us. So internally as women, we said women should support women. Those of us that have taken the step out, to break these ceilings, we need to also come together, form a coalition, look for funding. At the core of this is funds. We need money. We need to seek organization. There's an organization that sponsored my trip here. It's called NDSA. If we need to form a coalition, decisive, then we seek the funds. We have to get the girls from the villages to come to school. We need money. So we need to go after the funds. That some of us will have to go after the politicians to get policies to change. We need to, I believe that we need to form a more organized setting and then chase the funds so that we can get the girl child up to, at least up to par with the male counterparts. That would be my contribution.
Thank you so much. So I think with these 2 very powerful last interventions, I would like to close on these very positive, these positive words, because as long as we need to acknowledge that we are still far from equality, and this is a fact. But all these and the conversation of today and knowing you and sharing all your experience prove that acting does make a change. That it happens if we do move in there, if there is foundations and conversations and women sharing their experience. This is the way that things can be done. So without not saying that we are still in a comfortable position, women in science and in general, but I think it's very good to see that things can be done, and you are basically the proof of that. Having you as it's been a very inspiring experience for all the public that has been following us. So as well the organizers, de la Asociación de Científicos de Sudáfrica, Fundación Mujeres por África, the Embassy of Spain. So everyone that has been involved, like in all your careers, in all your journey, like personal and professional, because we do need personal support in order to keep on our careers many times. So yeah, thanks again to all the speakers for sharing this evening, and good luck on your continuation.
Thank you so much, Gemma.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you very much.
And everyone that joined us all over the
Yes.
world, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, that's true.
Thank you very much from us, South Africa. It was a very big pleasure to host you all here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you too. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.